Shannon, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for covering that. I think it's helpful to go through the process. John did say that he thinks they have a different circumstance than most, and he's wondering if you can call him at the end of the day, but he's saying we have to add all of our product to Highland Vineyard, then we change vendor after we complete the POs.
Okay.
And
Correct.
then-
I was actually heading there with the water, but that's no problem. What if this particular XYZ wine, what if they actually sold water as well? And we're like, heck, I'm ordering from them. Why don't I just get some water? Okay. So I've actually already got a bunch of the pieces done. We added a setup PO. This is what he had a question on. John, and this is great. What you're doing is if we do vendor-specific information, it's very easy to do vendor-specific. This XYZ red wine is very vendor-specific. However, if you start mixing vendors and you're like, oh, that's vendor-specific, your XYZ red, your XYZ white, your XYZ purple, those are vendor-specific, but water needs to be generic, all of a sudden we have a little bit of an issue, don't we? It's perfect. It's perfect. I love it. Can I do it? Can I do it? Let's do it. This is awesome. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to the main homepage, and now instead of starting at a vendor level, I'm like, you know what? I already have a PO that I was playing with. I need to play a little bit more on this PO. Okay. Really quick, this is just a quick check for me. I can't even remember if we actually finished water or not because we were on it and then we kind of jumped off of that subject. So my mind, the way it's going is instead of jumping right to like bam, 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 I'm like, did I even get water in there? So this is like John saying, creating his own generic product, okay? I'm just going to say, hey, it's already, the quick search is right here. WAT, did I get it? Oh, sweet. H2O is the barcode. It's called water. I'm going to sell it for $1.50, and it's currently under our vendor. So right here for John, this would be Highland Vineyards as the vendor. This is perfect. Say I wanted to order a couple cases of water from this guy, okay? Perfect, perfect. Let's do this. Going to go home. All I was doing here is checking to make sure I had this piece. This is a generic piece, and we're going to now start mixing vendors in a PO. This requires another permission, which is basically instead of a basic live, you're going to a special live. And the difference is basically, can I mix and match vendors? Okay. So right here, I'm going to go to the PO homepage. The one that we just did was this XYZ wine. This was our last order that we just did for $962. I'm going to click Edit. Now, if I were to type in water right here, what would happen? This is. I'm purposely going to show you an error message because it's kind of like, it doesn't want to do it. Watch this. WAT. I know I have a product that is called water. If I search this, what's it going to do? It should give me an error message. Hey, product was not found for vendor XYZ wine, which is true. Our water is actually under ourselves. That was our own generic product. So I do not want to add this here. I purposely wanted to show you this because it's trying, we are still in a vendor-specific PO. Watch this. In order to change this right here, instead of going from a basic live PO that is vendor-specific, I need to edit something. This is in my main information here. So all of a sudden, I'm playing in a different realm. You'll notice that this had just a single search form. Watch what happens if I do this. Edit main. I'm no longer a basic live. I am now a special live with mixed vendors. Great for generics, okay? It's very important. This has a great help file to kind of tell you what the differences of these POs things are. But I'm just going to go like this. One simple little switch to a PO type called Special Live, and these are corp-wide settings, so you can rename them. If you don't like it, click down, edit the PO. Aha, guess what? I have new options, okay? So instead of just having a single search option, watch this. I can click right here and say Highlands Vineyard in his case. For mine, I just said ourselves, and now I put WAT, okay? Search the products. Oh yeah, is this what you wanted? Like, it totally knows that, okay, I know that you're now mixing vendors rather than being vendor specific. Yep, I'm going to add this as a basic. Okay, this is kind of interesting. Normally, most people will use add as a basic line item. And let's say that we're dealing with bottles, and so I would say, hey, I have 24 packs, and they have this and this and this. That gets to be some math that you have to start calculating, okay? So I ordered 4 cases, and each one had X number of bottles in it. You'd have to do some math. Well, if you want, the basic one just wants to know it, the raw information. Watch this right here. I'm just going to go back one. If I switch it just one little step and say, I need to do a little bit of math. Okay, my total cost was $50 for this water. My known quantity is 240 of these guys, okay? Basically, what it's going to do is we're going to kind of say, hey, what do we need to do to make this thing happen? So my known quantity is 240. And sorry, my known quantity is 4. I got 4 cases, and I'm going to times it by a multiplier. So there's 24 in each of those 4 cases. Does that make sense? Do the advanced calc. Okay, so it looks like I actually received 96 bottles. What it does is it kind of helps you, and it looks like your item cost is going to be this, and there's a little bit of a rounding error in order to kind of really tweak this out. Okay, Adilas will go clear out to a 5 decimal, and if you're worried about that, you could easily just go, you know what, I am going to just, like you could modify it if you wanted to do that, if you didn't want all of this rounding error. What it ends up happening is it creates a problem on the next side because you're literally splitting things. Like, whoa, that's not how you bought it, but I'm trying to pull it into a different piece. I'm just going to go ahead and just do that calculation again so it repopulates that. It shows me some of the math that's actually going on, and I can say, yep, perfect, let's do it. Add it as a line item. I kind of went it a little bit different that time just to show that advanced add. So at this point, I have the same PO. It's currently tied to XYZ wine, and then it has vendor specific, vendor specific, vendor specific, and generic. Okay, it automatically pulled in that generic.
Oh, you can even put it on the same PO that you got.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So here's what John normally ends up doing, because everything is basically a generic. They basically have to switch some things around. Okay, so in order to make it so that you don't have to keep selecting the vendor and which one it is, can I show you how John would do a PO? Okay, basically I'm going to pretend like I'm John for a second. I'm going to leave this PO. Actually, before we leave it, why don't we just fix it real quick? There's still some problems because we just added some water to this. A quick edit name will fix that. So now it's 1012, and we'll say edit the PO. Sorry, that was just me trying to like kind of wrap things up there. So I'm going to pretend that I'm John now, okay? And he has all generic products, and then he wants to eventually pay for something. So here's John's scenario. He starts out and he's like, you know what? I need to start a vendor. I'm going to start a PO for myself. And the reason I went to vendor is because, and instead of our, he would actually type in Highland or something to that effect, okay? He clicks go. At this point, he sees his own name there. He says, yes, create a PO. Now, the reason that we purposely put it under this one is it actually will allow us to search some things quicker later on. He's basically going to say, hey, I'm either going to be a basic live, or I would actually purposely kind of go right here and say, hey, I'm going to be a special live, so I'm going to eventually have mixed vendors, okay? And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say, grabbing new products. And I'm going to come down. I don't know the amount. We're going to fake it again. We're going to say it's $200, and this one has some sort of small external invoice number. Yes, they are in my possession. He's going to click it. So what happens is automatically it'll default to whatever the vendor name is, so now I don't have to do this. So if I want to bring in water, piece of cake. Water, boom, yep, do it. How many bottles did I get? I'm going to get another 96 of them. Add it, okay? Boom, boom, boom. He brings in these products. Let's say that this particular one, he also said, hey, you know what? They have a sale on hot tamales. Let's see what we got here. Perfect, yeah. Let's add in some hot tamales. So these are generic products that I'm adding in, okay? So what happens is eventually, let's say, hey, we're going to get a bunch of these. 24 of those. That's perfect. Bring them in. So he's basically bringing in these generic products, okay, that are tied to his vendor. However, on the payables, we don't want us to pay it. He actually bought it from, say for instance, XYZ Wine again or whatever, okay? So basically what ends up happening is I'm going to kind of fix this particular main, and then this is the part where he's like, man, it kind of takes me a second to kind of flip it around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just fix the general math. We have 2 generic items that were pulled in, and eventually we want to reassign this so that it knows that the payable portion of it, we're talking clear to the accounting level, is actually not for ourselves, but for XYZ. So we're kind of doing a little bit of flip-flop here, okay? So I'm going to jump in here to the edit main, and basically right here, it's currently under this vendor. If I wanted to, I could actually select, hey, I'm going to flip you to XYZ wine. What this does is it basically switches that main search. So if I were to add more products, guess what the default search would be on the next page? XYZ wine, because whatever the main vendor is, that's what it is. That's why he started a PO under himself to do all these generics, and then eventually he kind of has to do a little cleanup process. Oh, okay, I just was using that to load it. Now I really want to say who it's to. So that's basically what you're doing here, okay? So he basically says, I'm going to flip it to XYZ, I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to come down and make sure that my amount is correct. Oh, wow, not even close to 60.80. Okay, I'm going to say perfect, perfect, perfect. Go ahead and edit that PO. At this point, it's now under XYZ wine, okay, even though it has generic items in it that he pulled in. So that's kind of his little process. If I click on the payables for XYZ wine, it will have this, even though it has just generic products underneath it. It basically says, hey, you owe a bunch. And here's some of the different pieces that it owes for. Here's the one that we just barely did. This, actually, the 6080 is this. I can't pay for it yet because it hasn't been verified. But basically, that's kind of the process of what's going on as far as how that happens. Ask John if that answered his question, and hopefully he could kind of see how we were just doing. When you get mixed vendors and you have generic products, you have to do a little flippy-floppy because otherwise it's kind of like, it's trying to track itself. Is what it's trying to do is clear to that detailed level.
While we're waiting for John to respond,
Yeah.
another question he did ask is, can we have a total of all of card charges show on the daily sales report at the end of the day?
Total of all of the what?
Card
Credit
charges. Credit
Okay,
cards.
so what it does right now on your daily, weekly, it basically breaks it out into, here's what you had for Visa, here's what you had for MasterCard, here's what you had for Discover, and it gives you a number. For instance, right here, say I wanted to just say, hey, what did we run today? And I know that we've gone to some different pieces. So if I scroll down right here, here's what he's asking. Can I get a total of all of the cards? So currently I ran 3 under Visa, but what it would actually do in real life, it would say MasterCard 7, XYZ. So then he has to kind of like, okay, my total cards are this, this, and this. That's a great idea, John. Go ahead and record that, and we will go. Currently, that is not available. It just shows it. And hopefully your fingers aren't worn out from typing, but that's a great idea. So some of you guys are like, well, where in the heck are we? Okay, I'm going to take you back here. We can go from multiple different places. And once again, you have to realize, think of your virtual world. Where do you start from? Is it the classic homepage? Is it my favorites? Is it retail? Is it where? A lot of the people who will end up doing the page that we're looking for actually go from the classic homepage, okay? I'm going to quickly switch over here. And what they'll do is they'll actually say system reports, and they'll basically come down to, let's see if I have it, sales and profit reports, okay? So basically this is a sub of invoices is what it really is. And then they'll click go. It basically brings them, hey, do we want to group it? Do you want to see it by location? Are you looking for just today, a weekly? What are we looking for? Basically, they'll filter this information however they want. I'm just going to change it just so you can see a little difference in activity. And then they'll say, get the report. This is how they get to that same page that I was just looking at. Okay? Because I ran it for weekly, I had one more Visa that I picked up for this little particular play site. And so he's kind of looking at this. The neat thing about this particular report is basically it allows you to jump in there and kind of say, hey, what did we sell today? Or what happens? Do I want to group this? Right here, if I click on candy, it'll show me all of my different pieces of candy, okay? M&M's, Snickers, Hot Tamales, M&M's, Snickers, okay? If you want to see it like that, that's fine. If you want to, you could also go like this. Hey, can you group that for me? Oh yeah, sure, no problem. And it just kind of rolls it out and says, hey, it looks like you sold 14 Hot Tamales, 68 M&M's, and 34 Snickers. So it looks to me like M&M's was the winner. But basically, that's a small little demo on that particular report. This report is technically a sub of invoices. That's where all of this stuff resides.
So they're wondering if maybe you do have time to call them or something. They are misunderstanding the new vendor setup, and they're having a hard time explaining it by typing. Do you want to go audio? Do you want to have them turn on their audio and ask what they're going through, or talk to them later, or what would you prefer?
Yeah, I think what we'll do, we've actually gone a couple vendors. John, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to actually create a brand new, like, I don't know, and it may need that we actually need to talk on the phone. Like, what I'm hearing, and I'm just kind of saying what I'm hearing, how do I create a new vendor that potentially has other products, but I don't want to use their products, I want to use my products, okay? So basically what you're saying is you're trying to, your products are specific to your industry and specific to your thing. Like, for instance, if you're selling wine, you're going to sell your Bud Light, you're going to get it from distributor A, you're going to get your Bud Light from distributor B, but you just want to sell Bud Light, okay? So what you're doing is you're basically creating a product inside your system that says, hey, it's a generic thing, and it's going to be my Bud Light, it's going to be my Coors, it's going to be my whatever. I don't necessarily want to make it always related to Coors. It just generally needs to have that name when I put it on my inventory, and so I can track it. But I might buy it from distributor A, B, C, D, and E. But I all want it to go in one spot on a shelf where I'm selling my cases or my cans or whatever you're doing, okay? So that's kind of what's going on there. As far as the actual vendor, literally within 3 steps we can set up a new vendor. Your products that already exist, they already exist. You shouldn't have to go back in and recreate those, okay? I don't know if it would help. Let me know if I'm kind of on the right wavelength here or if I'm missing something.
Okay, this is what we've got back. John says, it has nothing to do with the product, new vendors only. Presently, it's very complicated. And Sandy said, Steve set us up to create vendors the way we have been doing it. We cannot buy products, i.e. cores, from different vendors.
Okay, so I would actually have to look, and John, this is a question. I actually have permissions into your site. This is being recorded. Do you want me to go into Highlands Vineyard and you can kind of give us an example and maybe I can take a look at what's going on? You can try to see if his audio would work as well. That'd be fine.
Yeah, let me see what he's on. John, do you have the ability to have speakers or a microphone on your computer that you could try
Yeah, I have a
talking to
good
us?
one. Take care.
Okay, we can actually hear you. So if you want to
Yep.
talk to Brandon instead of
Why don't you turn up
typing
the
in the
volume there? You might have to go function and then
chat
press the...
box, you can actually talk to us.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Good, Brandon. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Okay, we've beaten this one to death, and I don't want to bore everybody with a problem in setting up a new vendor. But I think where the misunderstanding is, we're tying a vendor into product.
Okay.
A new vendor has nothing to do with product, period. It
Okay.
is the step. It's the step that stands alone in setting up that vendor.
Okay,
Okay.
no problem. John,
Right
what I
now-
can do, why don't you give me an example and we will actually use your verbiage and I will set up a new vendor. Tell me which page you start from and we will walk through the process as if you're doing it, and then I might be able to give you some little shortcuts.
Okay. Go ahead.
Like,
Yeah, this is John.
it's the other John.
The other John.
Okay, perfect.
He's with the customers. That's the John.
I'm not sure.
Well,
We could just continue to go with a new wine vendor but we don't necessarily have to tie it to product. It's just all the steps we have to go through in order to get that new vendor to show up on POs, and we actually have to change to the vendor. Because like if I just added a vendor that made a PO, he will not show up on that drop-down menu. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, correct. So basically what's happening, okay, I get it now, I get it, okay? So what's happening is I'm going to just kind of go home for just a quick second, and I'm going to go to a PO homepage, and I'm going to click on this edit, and then go to edit main. What he's saying is that, oh my goodness, I can't get it to populate into this list because it has 0 items. Is that correct, John?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And so here's what I would do if I were you guys. Let's just create, I've already created XYZ wine. Let's say I had a brand new vendor. I'm gonna bust through this kind of quick, but I'm gonna see if this will help solve your problem, okay? And what this does is basically, instead of just creating a vendor, this list, as far as like what it's looking at, it's actually looking to say, do I have any product associated with it? So what I would do is I would actually recommend that you create one micro teeny little piece of a product, okay? And so like, and you just keep it standard. You just call it setup for that particular vendor, and as soon as they have one product, that their name will instantly show up on that little drop-down box, and then you can flip it like we've been talking. And the reason is basically, this might answer your question, and it's a little deeper than maybe what you're looking for, but I know that John, and I appreciate you saying, man, we keep beating this dead horse. I was misunderstanding where we were missing the piece, okay? I'm going to go home for just a microsecond. I want to explain something. A vendor payee and a user payee are technically on the same table. I'm going to grab my little marker real quick so I can highlight those. And the reason is eventually you have to pay for things, okay? I'm going to pay for POs or maybe just exact services going this way. Or if I'm going through payroll, I have to pay a user, okay? And so for expense receipts, to be able to handle both sides of that and to be able to search and do all that kind of stuff, technically payee vendors and user payees are on the same table, and then we just virtually connect them with a flag. Okay, hey, John, you're a user. You get an extra flag, and I'm going to assign you permissions. Oh, XYZ Wine, you don't get the flag, and so guess what? You don't even get to log in and play, okay? So basically, that's what's kind of going on. So instead of just pulling a whole vendor list into that drop-down box, what we're doing is we're saying, which vendors actually have something in this playground? And that's why it's not showing up on your list, if that makes sense, okay? Hopefully you can kind of see where those dots are, and this would basically come through the PO portion, vendor PO.
Brandon,
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you?
Absolutely.
Okay, you have a template in there to set up a new vendor. Okay, you put the address in, you put the name, the address, the phone, the fax, okay, and you drop all the way to the bottom and it says add payee. Okay?
Correct.
In my estimation, then that should go into the list of all of those other vendors without making any other steps.
Okay, that's a great comment, and maybe what I'd like you to do, John, is if you could record that, that would be awesome. Another way that we could actually technically do it is we could actually add a little button. So once you go through the simple vendor add thing, what if we added a little button that's like, hey, automatically set me up in here? Because the reason that we don't pull it is technically you could have a vendor that you're just paying and he never ever goes through the PO portion. And so basically, in order to do the edit PO, that's why it's limited to just that particular piece. So here's an example, John, and those are great questions. You're like, doggone it, if I add the vendor, why doesn't it show up? And what it's doing is when we're actually dealing with POs, you've almost entered a virtual little piece of that world where it's like, oh, POs, I must have some other connection clear into the general inventory parts, okay? I love your suggestion. Please add that to chat, and you're basically saying as soon as we say vendor, show up. And I don't have a problem with that. What I need to do is I'm kind of telling you what it's currently doing, but I love that idea, John. That's great. That's great. And the other possibility would be to be, after you set up your vendor, if you had a little special button that's like, hey, can you automatically just add an item for me so that I show up? Basically, it would be the same thing, but virtually what we would do is we'd run through the little PO section and kind of just, like, that's why it's filtered that way. This is an example that we did just yesterday, just for fun, okay? Watch this. I'm going to actually switch out of this mode where I'm drawing, And we actually had a vendor yesterday we were playing with called Mid. Okay, it was Midwife Schools, Midwife's College. So basically, we just created a bunch of expense receipts for this particular vendor. We were doing some playing around with expense receipts. Well, I don't want that one ever to show up in my POs as far as that goes. I'm just going to click cancel there for a second. So basically, we ran a couple different things. We ran $1,300 to this particular vendor. If I were to go to my POs section, watch this. I'm just going to pull up a random PO. I believe we were working on 59 a little earlier. If I hit Edit Main, I will not have that vendor all show up in there because it does not connect to my items. So what I was trying to do is I was probably trying to be smarter than what we're trying to, but basically I was trying to limit it if you actually had an inventory item. Okay, cool. I'll show you up in that PO list. Does that kind of make a little bit of sense?
Straight ahead. I'm sorry, Brandon, I was dealing with a customer, so pardon me.
No problem. Hey, John, are you doing okay? Do you want me to run over that again, just basically?
No. If we have any questions on this after you get through with your seminars, we can talk.
Okay.
Because that would work great. Now, also, so as you understand, we might set a vendor up today. Okay, we may not get product from them until next week. So then we fully understand it's new product, and we know adding new product to the system, general inventory items, that works fine, no problem whatsoever.
It's just getting that new vendor so he can play into that list.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, it's a profound test of patience right now, of which I am not over in doubt.
John, I hope you can see my smile. There is a webcam, but I am smiling from ear to ear. I love your accent, and it's awesome. Can I show you a quick little workaround, like how you could actually do it?
Sure.
Yep, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to basically bounce through this. We're going to have a new vendor. We're going to set it up, and we're going to populate it so that we can use it in that drop-down box, okay? So from the get-go, wherever I'm at, I'm going to check to see if I have that vendor in. I'm just setting up a new vendor. We did XYZ. I'm going to do ABC this time to see what I have. I currently have another vendor. That's not who I'm looking for. I'm going to say add a new vendor. At this point, I'm going to see ABC. I'm going to go ahead and call it ABC Wine, similar to our XYZ Wine. And I'm just going to kind of pop in a quick little address. Let's go 1010 South. Maine. We'll just go Logan again. Utah 84321. If you wanted to, you could populate the rest. For this particular demo, we'll go fast. Add the payee. So at this point, the vendor exists. I can now write expenses to it. I can do anything. However, ABC Wine does not show up in my PO list. It could be this simple as a workaround. Create PO. Change it to, a basic live PO. Just call it setup. This is the pieces that you're like, oh, I wish I didn't have to do this. This is the workaround really quick. Add the PO, type in the word setup, hit search. It'll say, I don't have it. You just say, I want to add you, 0, basically turn it to unlimited, and just whatever category you wanted to do it. I'm just going to call it basic. Setup, come down, leave it 000. We're going to say, that's my price. Come all the way down, add the product. At this point, this little PO, it created a new bridge. Even though I have $0 owed, 0 anything, I now can actually get to ABC Wine under my POs. Okay? So watch this. Let's go to that same PO that we were back at. PO 59. So currently it's under XYZ Wine. If I hit Edit Main, because I did that little sidestep, I should now see ABC Wine. Okay? I can flip it to that little piece, say Edit the PO. Boom. The payables for this piece are now under ABC Wine. We just flipped the vendor. But the reason that you weren't able to see that, and hopefully you weren't adding every single product under that other one, and then coming back. Like once it has one little teeny product, and we just created an unlimited one called Setup, and basically what it does is now it's able to kind of say, hey, I've got all of the pieces that I need. I have something in that inventory pool that's associated. Did that kind of help, or are you still kind of like, oh my goodness, that's still way too much?
Still way too much. I'm sorry.
Perfect, perfect. So what we can do is we can technically open that up. And the reason that it wasn't opened is I don't know if that makes sense as far as like even adding that other vendor, that Midwife's College. Like technically, where do you want this? Like that was just a vendor payee only on my expense side and had absolutely nothing to do with POs. But if you want, all we have to do is literally, we could change that in a relative heartbeat and we could get that updated for you.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay, we will do that so that basically as soon as you add a vendor, you automatically will be able, it'll show up on that list. And then you basically have a 3-step vendor process. Search it, add it, actually a 2-step vendor process, and you're done, okay? And then basically it'll show up on that list. And all the items that you already have, you're already going to be able to use those. And then you'll be able to roll through it. Does that make a little bit more sense?
Yes, it does.
John, that's great.
I have a hard time understanding your accent too, Brandon.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts. John, I appreciate it. I have talked to you on the phone many times. You're doing awesome, bud. You're doing really, really good. Anything else I can do for you?
Well, you always know when you call me, my patience is not very, I wasn't over-endowed with patience.
Well, you did get an extra sense of humor, so maybe that'll make up for it, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. John, thank you very much. What we're going to do, do you have any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and mute you, and we're going to kind of roll. Actually, it's getting pretty close to lunchtime, and I've been sitting in this chair for 3 hours, and I got to get up. But is there any other questions we have before we break for lunch?
I didn't know. Are you going to buy me lunch? Where do we go here? How are we going to arrange that?
Hey, John, we're actually going to do some of this training in Colorado. If you wanted to, it's going to be up in the Denver area next month. And if you show up, I will buy you lunch, okay?
Okay. All right, Brandon. Thanks very much.
No problem. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. What we're going to do, just kind of in general, is it's currently 12:08. Let's go ahead and take at least an hour break. We'll be back at 1:15, and we will restart and kind of go from there. Those who are participating remotely, thank you very much. And those who are here in the class, I appreciated your feedback as well. Let's go ahead and we'll stop from there. Thank you.